I'm Ace Bogus.
All right. Let's see here. Welcome, one and all, to our second New Note Poetry live stream reading. This is extremely exciting. Hello, everyone. My name is Nathan Nicolau. I am the founder and editor-in-chief of New Note Poetry. Today we have a fantastic lineup of poets, a total of 37 poets. This is the most that we have received so far, even though this is only our second time doing this. 37, just incredible stuff. So we are all in for a and fantastic treat here. So just a quick few words about New Note Poetry. For those of you who may not be familiar with us, New Note Poetry is an online-only poetry magazine where we publish the boldest poets. We believe in moving poetry in a more forward direction. We embrace the avant-garde. We love the strange. We embrace just the freest form of communication, which is poetry. And we have a big kind of a tagline. It's a pretty bold tagline that people have told me. But we believe poetry is the jazz of the written word. And I do take that to heart because with we embrace the avant-garde. We love embrace just. You can't hear me. The freest. Sounds good on my end. Let's see there. Okay, just making sure that works there. Okay, so like I said, we embrace what is new. We embrace what is forward thinking. We embrace just whatever new directions poetry takes us. We want to leave a new note onto it. And that's why I say poetry is the jazz of the written word, because jazz is a very expressive, free form of music that for even to this day, jazz is still leaving new notes, leaving new marks on jazz as a whole, and that's the way I see poetry going towards today. So I created a magazine based on kind of that concept. Of course, New Note took a lot of inspiration from a certain jazz record label called Blue Note Records. It actually really wasn't intended that way. Fun fact, until someone pointed out to me, I was like, oh wow, this is a lot like Blue Note. But anyway, for those of you who have not heard of us, welcome. I thank you very much. New Note is nothing without you fantastic readers. And for those of you who are poets that are going to be reading today, welcome. You guys are, you guys are also a big part. In fact, the biggest part of New Note Poetry. New Note Poetry would not be where it is right now without your fantastic poems and your amazing contributions. So, without further ado, I'll talk more about New Note later, but let's dive into some fantastic poems. These are hot. Okay, this is if you want a good selection of what I mean by what's bold poetry, what's forward-thinking poetry, and what do you necessarily mean by poetry being like jazz of the written word. This is what I'm talking about here. The stuff that you're about to see in this live stream today. So. It's alphabetized by first name. So first off, we have Ace Bajas here. So let's just take it away. We're gonna go straight to it.
I'm Ace Bajas from Charleston, West Virginia. Friend dream. Were you smiling in the dream? Alight with acceptance, the universe does what it does to us. Last week, your 50th birthday, why you were on my mind, or in it at a table, hands folded prayer-like on your lap, while you joked with someone familiar. The banjo player, I realized later, from the comic bluegrass band we love, does what it does When I sat down, the lead singer joined us, looming, trench coat and Irish cap, beard graying, humorless. He slid his new CD to me. I recognized its cover right away. You said nothing with mouth open, as if you had an epiphany. While I looked at you, the singer left for dinner with his wife, lover, or someone else who knew the joy of bread. I couldn't decide between waiting for you to find words or following the man to get his signature. There, night left me. Image of a celebrity retreating, another of you, my oldest friend, alive in awe of our being alive at all.
Fantastic stuff. What a great way to start. Exactly what I just said, a big thing that I love and I look for in poems is definitely storytelling. And I think Bodge's poem there really exemplifies that. Jazz tells a story. Every solo that you hear in jazz music, that's a person up there screaming, crying, telling the story of their life, so that's stuff I really look for. So, again, I don't want to take up too much time. Let's go straight into our next poet, which is Alex Kerrigan. Okay, this is a good one, guys. Just a bit of a small thing here. I remember the first time this poem hit my desk, I was laughing. I was just dying of laughter, and I said to myself, I have to publish this. Like, this is truly something unique, something that I typically don't see. So, a little bit of a build up there. But up next, we got Alex Kerrigan.
Hello. My name is...
Let me get it all set up for you here. Like I said, Alex Kerrigan.
Hello, my name is Alex Kerrigan, and I'll be reading my poem from the summer 2022 issue of New Note Poetry. This is Trixie Mattel, before the unveiling of her gold statue. This poem is a cento created from the official Twitter account of drag performer, musician, and entrepreneur Trixie Mattel. Please be warned, this poem contains foul language, sexual references, references to toxic fandoms, and lines that could possibly set off your Alexa while I'm reading it. Thank you. Good morning, you junkie whores. Just like my pioneer ancestors, I'm hungover. She had a little too much prop wine. Alexa, play Watercolor Eyes by Lana Del Rey. Just a young woman spreading joy and her legs across the country on tour. And speaking of legs, everyone keeps trying to fuck me. Does it ever end? We're halfway through the first leg of our North American tour. If you aren't bald, you can't come. I'm sorry for any inconvenience. Normalize being old, bald, and disgusting. Alexa, play Juice by Lizzo. Stop sending hate to drag queens that I don't already hate. Maybe drag queens should start sending death threats to fans. Lol. People need to touch grass and breathe and enjoy television. Gays in their 30s. I can't. Thanks everyone for your support. Still saying this daily. Everyone wants to fuck me, and I totally get it. I'm a young human girl in her prime. If I don't do adult films, who will? Alexa, play Brave by Sarah Bareilles. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to see more poetry from reality show contestants' Twitters, I recommend my debut poetry chapbook, May All Our Pain Be Champagne, now available on Amazon. This collection contains poetry created from the Twitters of 16 Real Housewives, so feel free to check it out. Thank you very much.
Amazing stuff, hilarious stuff, and rip to everyone's Alexas at home. Yeah. Again, first time I read that poem, I was just like, I have to include this. I never saw anything quite like it when I came across it. And you know what? The same really goes for a lot of the poems we're about to see today. People ask me, well, what necessarily are you looking for in a poem? What I always look for is this something where I said, yeah, like this is this is something unique, this is something new, this is someone's voice being put out there into the world. They just had to put it out there, and I love how Alex Kerrigan really just had to let all that out with his Eccentrus there. So thank you for plugging in your book, by the way. I definitely want to get a copy of it. I love supporting all the poets that are in New Note. So definitely go out, get that book. Definitely sounds very interesting, very unique. Okay, up next we have a poem by one Ana Flores Tamayo. Ana Flores Tamayo up next.
Hi, my name is Ana Flores Tamayo, and I wrote this acrostic, and yet hope. Averting your heart, never really letting anyone see you, distancing yourself, resisting your dazzling mind, eternally you desire. Semblance of familiarity. Thank you.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful stuff there. One of the things I always look for in a poem, how does the poet use language? Poetry is comprised of different forms of language, and it's not always just written word. I remember with Ana Flores Tamayo's poem there, she included an image that I had to put in along with the poem that she wrote, and I felt that one image, this image of this young girl turning her head in this kind of blurred background, I think really accentuated the words that she put down there. So if you go to the issue that she is in, And Yet Hope, that's the name of the poem, you will find that picture along with it. So I'm always interested in see how people use language and communication methods, not just written word, also video. Kind of a segue. 2 issues out of the year, we accept video poetry. And I'm going to show a few of those video poems on this live stream as well. So, like I said, at New Note here, we are open to all forms of poetic expression, much like how jazz is all about expression itself. No matter which way you like your jazz, if you like bebop, free jazz, funk, whatever it is, it's still jazz at the end of the day. All right, so up next, Andrew Darling. Andrew Darling, coming up next, coming up right at you.
Hi there.
Let me get it all set up for you.
Hi there, this is Andrew Darling. I'm coming from Healesville in Australia, and this is a little poem I wrote in the back of a car driving through the Netherlands recently. It's called Wind Farm. Spectral dancers, legions of lunar acrobats in eternal somersault, dinosaur bone and fin sculpted into wing, slow turning propellers for squadrons of invisible airplanes, future trees towering in glacial dream above fields flatter than sky.
Gotta say, that is a beautiful background you got there, Andrew. Damn, where do you live? Where do I live and where do I rent it? Yeah, beautiful, beautiful scenery for a very beautiful nature poem. I don't know about you guys, but I love nature poetry. And I think there is a strong connection between nature and music, especially jazz. So I remember when I came across that poem, absolutely beautiful language. It was like I was really transported into the world that Andrew Darling was creating there. All right, so up next is kind of our first video poem from Andrew first. This poem, according to the poet, was originally done over music, and he decided to do that for this live stream. So without further ado, up next we have Andrew first. Let me get him ready right here.
fast and fading. But imagine faint wails given to paralysis as like pouting flowers. Fully smoking, we want a refill to accrue happily, as vertically as self-consciousness. Let's weigh our idleness, caution our longing, forget our own despair. Don't want hunger or appreciation. Startle your own beliefs and rapture across it. Listlessness is the infection of benefit. The quiet underwear of the monsoon. The holy boot drops. The shuddering edge functions as a calculator. We hear like a solstice makes out humming nests. Nothing is so cubic, itchy, or strange as slim mouths spilling into the whimpering bend. What is the advantage of whispering? It's as old-fashioned as energy. It wants use, earnestness, admiration wants it as obediently as greed. It explains fear with kindness and our own insincerity, as perfectly as solemnity. It doesn't want fury or exuberance or to dream with cleverness. It just insists we break.
Beautiful, beautiful. I got chills watching that, seriously. Very, very well done from Mr. Andrew First there. Really powerful to see this kind of amalgamation of words, music, and filmmaking. You know, that's the kind of stuff that I love to see when it comes to video poetry. But even though that poem was originally published on our online magazine, I just felt such rawness in the voice, such rawness, raw musicality in the word choice of that poem, and that's why I really gravitated to that. I remember, you know. So again, wow, really just got chills watching that. Beautiful stuff there. Up next, we have Ann Wallace. Ann Wallace coming at you up next. Let me get her all set up. Really just fantastic stuff so far. You know, this is a very strong opening. I'm sure you all agree. But once again, up next is Ann Wallace.
Hi, my name is Ann Wallace, and I'm going to share my poem, Airborne. This one was written in early April 2020 when I was a few weeks into my COVID illness, which then turned into long COVID. And it's an early piece from a long series of COVID poems that I've written. Airborne. Each breath, beating breath, sucks in the thin air. Exhaustion floods the pulse, slow pulse of the exhale. A wave of light, of blue, then dark, sways inside my head, floating right, floating left, around, around, around. Thank you.
Once again, beautiful use of language there, and a very good reading, I'd say. One of the things I love about poetry is I believe anything can be a poem. Literally anything. You know, your 3 a.m. thoughts. My cat zooming across my Christmas tree right now. I have a Christmas tree right there. Anything could be a poem, and even it doesn't matter what the subject is or how you're thinking, how you're feeling, you know. And I appreciate Ann Wallace for wanting to write about her experiences dealing with COVID. Definitely not a very pleasant experience, but the fact that she was able to write such a beautiful, moving poem, great use of repetition as well, out of that experience. I love that stuff. I really do. All right. Up next, we have Anusha Shaigan. Anusha Shaigan. Let's get her up and running. Let's give her some undivided attention here. Really great stuff so far. So once again, Anusha Shaigan up next.
Hi, my name's Anusha Shaigan, and I will be reading my poem called The Human Condition. The sound of scurrying, restless feet, marching endlessly on a crusade, brings wet, drenching gloom.
So once again,
covers the sun with perfect, plump white clots of rain, and the sky settles into gray. Funny that the only gleam bright enough to capture my eye is industrialized green light, manufactured into the shape of a squat secular cross. And all is surveyed through the grimy broken shards of mist escaping my lips. The dirty opaque heavens begin to contaminate my veins, till all feeling is stunned by gelid pain, just the faint sensation of marinating the heart in dejection, of allowing the shadows to creep from behind every raindrop and penetrate my already deadened mind. I just want to feel the beaming rays of the golden god's gaze, want warmth to scamper up my frame and awaken my sleeping jubilation. But a constant humid breath is now blanketing my damp skin. Sticky drops of salty sweat glue my thighs together and cement me to the scorching leather car seat. I can sense it, drying my skin, boiling it till it devolves into red, large splotches. Then there's a peeling of my now crisp-crackling fleece as the sun manages to creep underneath my once protective layering. There is the muffled panting as my tongue flies out of my mouth, just bathing in heat. Now it is a dry mount of yellowing sand that is too thick to swallow with. So that slowly, as the blinding beams penetrate my being, the water in me simmers, then separates from bone and fat, and finally, if I am just so lucky, becomes wisps of air caused by the summer's teasing. I just wish I could retain the water, suck it furiously back into my system through one of those curled straws Mother would keep locked in the cabinet. To return to a time when I was a reality, an actuality of life, not to have my skin stretch over the creaking bones, but to once again be breathing water. I just wish I could absorb the sun's jubilant rays. I just wish I could absorb the wet, lively tears of rain. I just wish I could know what my heart detects it lacks, could call mine what I don't own.
Whew! Powerful. That's all I can really say. I was left speechless for half a second there. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful stuff. Anusha, I don't know if you're out there, but I'm trying to fix my camera there. Anusha, I don't know if you're out there, but I hope you have an audiobook out, because that was just that's a snapper. I call it a finger snapper right there. Beautiful, gorgeous reading of that poem, almost exactly how I pictured it when I picked it for publication in Poetry Magazine. Beautiful. Fantastic reading. All right. Up next, Bonnie Walkenstein. Or Walkenstein. I apologize if I butcher some names, by the way. So up next is Bonnie. All right. Once again, Bonnie Walkenstein. Or Steen. We'll see how she says it. We'll see how she says it.
This is Bonnie Walkenstein reading Santa Justa Sonata. Waiting to board for Cadiz in the slate gray Sevilla Santa Justa lobby, I'm surprised to recognize where I am. I've been here before. Memories tumble and bounce like marbles, skitter, scatter, roll under chairs, past doorways, into the shop where 3 years ago I bought a lipstick, dark mahogany number 2, which you never grew to like. Into the soulless, time-distorting car return kiosk that turned weariness into slow-moving rage. All through the Andalusian countryside, your grave, heavy-hearted countenance strummed, discordant with my traveler's capriccio. Free from responsibility, I was mesmerized by rows of sunflowers drooping their large brown heads. As you squinted to read highway signs, navigated reservations and timetables without speaking ni una palabra of the language. I remember now how much I wanted our rhythms to resonate, how alone I felt after our allegro gave way to a slow, measured andante. You content to languish in the key of slow caress, me reaching for modulations in timbre and tone, progressions that would spark a dance, or at least a poem where the dried sunflowers were a metaphor. I kept trying to sing you in my own key, wanted bronze lips to transform my pink-hued skin Española, a make-believe identity I believed in more than I believed in us. Maybe it was this you didn't warm to, not the lipstick. I returned to the cosmetic store, purchase a tube of mauve-based nude. My body hums to the sway of the high-speed train.
Another beautiful reading of that poem. I remember what really drew me into that poem initially was the almost stream of consciousness aspect to it. I love stream of consciousness writing. Definitely unlocks a lot of creative expression, in my opinion, akin to jazz. I mean, kind of like how jazz is all improvised on the spot. Stream of consciousness writing definitely has that kind of element to it. I mean, you can look to the beat poets for that, like Kerouac, so on and so forth. So great reading from Bonnie there. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, up next we have Cassie Premo Steele. Cassie Premo Steele coming at you live. Let me get her set up here.
Hi, I'm Cassie Premo Steele, a poet in South Carolina, and my poem is called Bear, Bear. Bear the body in motion, the skin over an ocean, the blood in the drum of the heart, your skeleton loving my parts. Bear the story in secret, the words under an arm, the tattoo where the scars once were formed, your voice opening my stars. Bear the lips you have kissed by yourself, the color darkening down in the covers, the wish you finally take from the shelf. Bear the wild you have crossed above and through, the green seeping well into every pore and swallow, fruit you sweeten and swell.
Another fantastic reading there. Almost a little sing-songsy there. There was a little bit of a nice rhythm going there. One of those things I look for in a poem as well, just kind of sense of rhythm, but not necessarily in the sense of rhymed meter. New Note doesn't really accept rhymed meter. I know it sounds kind of crazy. It's like, well, you just wanted this whole thing about how poetry is like jazz. Absolutely, I mean, I think more of instrumental jazz. It doesn't necessarily rhyme, but there is a solid sense of rhythm even when you're improvising. So I love that sense of rhythm in that poem, and I love how she read it. It really brought it out. Kind of a quick thing here I want to plug in for those of you who are not familiar with New Note Poetry. I want to direct your attention to our website. Once again, New Note Poetry is entirely free to read online. We do not charge any kind of fees to read our work, and we do not charge fees for poets to submit. I'm a big believer in free art. Art should be available for everyone, no matter the barriers, so on and so forth. But I want to show you really quick what the website looks like right here. Just head on over to newnotepoetry.com. Just put it in the chat, and you can read all of our magazine issues right here. And then all of the great poets that you have been hearing so far today, they come from our summer and our autumn issues. Just click on these and you will be reading these online for free, anytime, anywhere. Yeah, really do appreciate the support. If you are interested in supporting us, we do graciously accept donations. We can even accept we accept any kind of donations. Rest assured, your donations go straight to enhancing New Note Poetry, keeping it alive. So, quick plug in there for those of you who may not be familiar with the magazine. But without further ado, if you're liking what you hear so far, you'll definitely like more of the poets, plenty of the poets that we got going on today. Again, 37 submissions for this live stream. Incredible. I hope to see just more and more and more. I mean, 24-hour live stream one day, might be a little much, but hey, I'm willing to do it for the name of good poetry. Up next, we got Corey Mesler, and what looks like a beautiful library. I collect a lot of books, so can't wait to see this on the full screen here. But up next, Corey Mesler.
Hi, my name's Corey Mesler. The name of my poem is Crows. There are crows on the telephone wire like messages from a past that I cannot remember. I wait for them to fly away, but they are as stubborn as hammered metal. I do not think they are portents of death, though I have heard that said. I spoke to them in a language I did not know I knew. They said, "We are not here for you. Everything is not always about you." Fucking crows.
That ending hits you right in the gut, Beautiful reading there. One of the things I always look for in a poem is voice. I think that poem has a very strong sense of voice. We get a strong sense of who the speaker is, and especially that final last line really hits you in the gut there. It's definitely a good humorous moment, but it also is a more contemplative moment there. And it's true what Corey says. Fuck you, crows. Man, they get everywhere sometimes. All right. Up next, we have Eleanor Cruz. Eleanor Cruz coming at you.
Hi, I'm Eleanor.
Let me get her all set up here.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Cruz, and this is my poem Soul Sucker. It was published in the autumn issue of New Note. I wrote this poem last year when I was 17 and working in retail, and that's what it's about. So let's go. You leave them in the corner clustered like rubies, eyes drawn down a narrow, narrow path to the ever-brightening white screen glistening in sticky hands, the case shedding rhinestones like frog eggs onto the beaten down carpet, and you scuff your shoes. Can I see that bag up there? All leaned over the countertop. I will admit, it makes me feel better to think I'm better than your saccharine sweet cigarette burn, sickening highlights, petite medium, scrolling thumb, bug eye glasses. Jesus Christ! When I die, I want to be buried with this goddamn Michael Kors. Yeah. Okay. I don't have any books out or anything, but if you liked what you read, I do have a zine that I publish sometimes. It's sadgirlriot.blogspot.com. Thank you.
Powerful reading there of a situation, I'm sure. For those of you who ever worked in retail or worked in any kind of customer service, I'm sure we all relate to that. I am shocked to hear that Eleanor was only 17 when she wrote that, and you know what? That gives me a great sense of pride. I love supporting, as much as I love bringing any poet out there, any of their works out there. I especially love to see young poets being published with us. I especially love it, and you know, it speaks true testament to, you know, a great poem is a great poem. Doesn't matter what your background is, how educated you are, how old you are. It doesn't matter. You know, to me, a great poem is a great poem, and I always put poem over poet. So one of those things I love. So very great stuff there. Up next, Elizabeth Maria. Good name. Elizabeth's actually my wife's name, so and I am not legally obligated to say that. No, I'm just kidding. Up next, Elizabeth Maria. All right, let's take it away.
Hello everyone, my name is Elizabeth Maria, and I'm going to read my poem Comfort for Rainy Days. I just wanted to thank New Note Poetry and Nathan for putting this together, and I'm grateful for being a part of Poetic Community. So here we go. Comfort for Rainy Days. Curled in position, the afternoon furrows. Rain pelts dim evenings. Window panes encroach as the intellect reels, until folded back pages begin to dance with dog-eared memories, highlight what makes our soul sing. From the books left to mildew, our connections wane. Surround us, we, commodification of self. Let us remember this collage on board, your magic garden swash, splatter on edge of wood, prim straw hat, a faint blue brims. Foreground, explosive orange and red like foxtail lilies, tilting back and screaming yellow meaning, beckons, yellow wisps hover near her brown skin. Darkened at face. In front of magazine-layered cabin, shrubs scattered as a slashing of moment, reflections of heart shimmer. This is Romer Berden, born 1911, in his astounding work, Maudal Sleet's Magic Garden, collage on canvas. Curled in position, the afternoon now glistens. Rain, water cleanses evenings. Window panes recognize as golden wings reveal. Thank you guys so much. Bye.
Beautiful reading there. And also, Elizabeth Maria, I don't know if you're out there, but you should do audiobooks as well. Very nice voice. I could definitely hear a bunch of stuff in that voice. So definitely consider it. Also a beautiful poem. One of the things I look for in a poem, while I'm editing the magazine and receiving submissions and whatnot, is I like poems where I walk away with a feeling after reading it. And I know a lot of people talk about how, poetry is putting your emotions into words. That is absolutely true. But what I love about poetry is how I can just leave with a full experience. I can just picture and envision myself into this world that this poet creates. And that poem especially definitely reminds me of a nice, calm, very visceral, rainy afternoon, where can't really go outside, but you're definitely doing a lot of sitting alone, contemplating the arts. I love the name drop to Romare Bearden. For those who don't know, Romare Bearden is a fantastic African-American artist, among one of my favorite artists. And I actually live in Charlotte, North Carolina, where Romare Bearden spent a good chunk of his life here, and a lot of his works are actually up in the museums here in Uptown Charlotte, and we have an entire park named after him, Romare Bearden Park. So that was definitely a plus for me when I came across that poem. Love Romare Bearden's work. I definitely have a strong connection with the arts. All right, up next, without further ado, we got Ellen White Rook. That's right, Ellen White Rook coming at you next.
Hello, I'm Ellen White Rook, reading my poem, 9 Red Lines. 9 red lines. 9 red lines on a stone flake found in a South African cave may be the earliest known drawing made by Homo sapiens. New York Times, September 13th, 2018. 1. My hand draws down, pulling the root out of the sky. 2. Down, 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 all caught and catching, becoming rain, tears, a palm-sized rock bouldered into my heavy hand. 3. Limbless trunks, straight, unbound, something emerges from in between, but it is the spaces between, not what embraces, that severs the beginning, slashes the curve of heart, the core of all. 4. Yet unstable like wind, palms joined hide something more than just one and other vision. I can bring into tomorrow more than what will fly apart. 5. A whole of itself, nothing to be done, undoing. 6. Someone brought stories of hot days and nights so cold it was how our bones lay when they found us. 7. In what we were hiding from, riddles. My hands tire from carrying, from talking around the same old story. 8. The sun. A line where day starts and ends, where the moon turns to nothing, to a humped curve, everything scraped and collected. 9. Blood rests in sharpness, knowing, complete beginning, birth blood, word, wet, greasy, earth joins voice and vision in glorious exclamation. If you'd like to read more of my work, visit my website at ellenwhiterook.com. Thank you.
Seriously, just impressed by the submissions in the past 2 issues. Ellen White Rook's poem there was a fantastic example of powerful language, the stuff that I really love, the stuff that I really look for. Beautiful reading there. And please support these fantastic poets. Please go out, buy their work, go to their websites, so on and so forth. So Ellen White Rook, just gave hers. Looked like Eleanor Cruz had her own magazine, which is fantastic. So definitely support these poets and what they do. One of the things that I always envision New Note being is like a community. You know, we all come together to do events like this, but we also share a common vision of really pushing poetry forward. So definitely heavily recommend everyone go out and support these fantastic poets. All right, up next we have Fran Fernandez Arce. Okay, Fran Fernandez. Let's get them up and running. I remember this poem distinctly. This is a very sorry, my camera looks like it's out of focus there. Okay. I remember this poem distinctly. This is a very powerful poem about what poetry is. And when I read it, I agreed wholeheartedly with it. So let's give them their undivided attention.
A poem consists of moments by Fran Fernandez Arce. The present of a poem is the runnings of alphabets over mountains of limestone thoughts, sweet cascades tinged with words abused by vicious tongues, which is to say you hardly ever call. Words come in groups, also fill sentences, digital ink with the stench of copper and lithium. A poem consists of moments that refuse to come through. There is an emptiness in the gaps of your messages. Strange musings of faint joy, too estranged. My instincts write down memories of imagined musical chords, the sounds of your voice. There is a poem made of tensions and tense sense somewhere within the songs you never write. Like scales on a keyboard, I fall down the sides, the horizontal downwards movement of the plane on the page. You also rarely tell me what you want, and by now, a poem has come and gone. Maybe on its own, this poem is not. How do guitar strings taste on your lips when every song you touch is made of pebbles and loose bits of mountain walls? Thank you.
Beautiful reading there. And it is true. I do agree. A poem consists of moments, and those moments come and go. They're fleeting, and I absolutely love the use of visual imagery used in that poem. So definitely a fantastic, almost like a good thesis statement for New Note poetry. Very beautiful stuff there. From Fran Fernandez Arce. All right, up next we got Haley Lachey, I believe it's pronounced Lachey. Again, I apologize for butchering anyone's names. I do. But up next we have Haley. Let's listen to her. All right.
Hi, I'm Haley Lachey, and here is one of my post-human poems, Against the Sudden Shift. Vigil of frozen wood dropped against rain-dried glass, or smear of bolts, plastic wrap watches, emptiness of fire, or scent of wood smoke. Sun-washed solution of maidenhair clinging. The coiled screen seeds itself into pomegranate husk. The voluminous waste or beaver den, sharing whispers insulated against the sudden shift. Currently what I'm working on is the online literary magazine, which I founded, created, designed, and edit. It's called Concision Poetry Journal. You can find it at concisionpoetry.com. We have a new issue that has just released, and so I hope you have a chance to read the issue, and I'll maybe even submit for the winter issue or during the winter reading season, which is coming up here in 2 months. So, yay, thank you for reading and listening, and I'm excited to hear everyone else's poems.
Always great to hear from another founder and editor of a lit mag. Yeah, fantastic stuff there. Definitely support Haley Lachey there. Great poem, by the way. If you guys actually go to her poem, I believe it's in the... I believe it's in the summer or autumn, because all of these are from the summer and autumn issues. The way she laid out this poem was actually very unique, and that's something I always look for, the visual element of the poem. How do poets use form to express their ideas and express their poetic images and stuff like that. So I love visuals. I'm a very visual person, and I'm very drawn to the arts. Quick plug-in, actually, before I get into this next one, I have to give a huge shout out to Brendan Sika. Brendan Sika is a collaborator of mine. He actually creates all the artwork that you see with Nuno Poetry. So the covers of the magazines that you see, the magazine issues, those are actually from him. He's a great digital artist. He also composes original music. He is a composer first, and the music that you just heard earlier in the live stream, that was actually from him. And also, we are working on having live music playing as you go through the website. Now, of course, you can turn it off if you want, but it definitely is enhances the experience, you know. So I want to give a shout out to him. But talking about art, we have another kind of visual poem here. This is from Ivan de Montbrison. So Ivan is a Russian poet, and his poem was translated in English in our summer issue, but for the reading today, he decided to read it entirely in Russian, his original native language, so you can really get a sense of how it sounds like in his native tongue. I heavily recommend going to the summer issue and reading the English translation, of course, but very interesting to hear poetry done in its original languages. We do accept translated work at Nuno Poetry, and in fact, we heavily encourage those from different identities to submit to Nuno Poetry. So here's Ivan de Montbrison with his poem. Again, he reads it entirely in Russian. So for those of you who understand Russian, unfortunately I don't. It is a beautiful language, I think. Again, I heavily recommend reading the English translation. But he also decided to do it in a more video poetry format. It looks like he filmed himself with a piece of artwork that he created that reflects the poem. So here is our next kind of video poem here. This is Ivan de Montbrison, and again, this is read in original Russian with the English translation available on Nuno Poetry.
Todesfuge. Schwarze Milch der Frühe, wir trinken sie abends, wir trinken sie mittags und morgens, wir trinken sie nachts, wir trinken und trinken. Wir schaufeln ein Grab in den Lüften, da liegt man nicht eng. Ein Mann wohnt im Haus, der spielt mit den Schlangen, der schreibt, wenn es dunkelt nach Deutschland, dein goldenes Haar, Margarete. Er schreibt es und tritt vor das Haus, und es blitzen die Sterne, er pfeift seine Rüden herbei, er pfeift seine Juden hervor, lässt schaufeln ein Grab in der Erde. Er befiehlt uns, spielt auf nun zum Tanz. Schwarze Milch der Frühe, wir trinken dich nachts, wir trinken dich morgens und mittags, wir trinken dich abends, wir trinken und trinken. Ein Mann wohnt im Haus, der spielt mit den Schlangen, der schreibt, wenn es dunkelt nach Deutschland, dein goldenes Haar, Margarete, dein aschenes Haar, Sulamit. Wir schaufeln ein Grab in den Lüften, da liegt man nicht eng. Er ruft, stecht tiefer ins Erdreich, ihr einen, ihr anderen spielt weiter zum Tanz auf. Er greift nach dem Eisen im Gurt, er schwingt, seine Augen sind blau. Stecht tiefer die Spaten, ihr einen, ihr anderen spielt weiter zum Tanz auf. Schwarze Milch der Frühe, wir trinken dich nachts, wir trinken dich mittags und morgens, wir trinken dich abends, wir trinken und trinken. Ein Mann wohnt im Haus, dein goldenes Haar, Margarete, dein aschenes Haar, Sulamite, er spielt mit den Schlangen. Er ruft, spielt süßer den Tod, der Tod ist ein Meister aus Deutschland. Er ruft, streicht dunkler die Geigen, dann steigt ihr als Rauch in die Luft, dann habt ihr ein Grab in den Wolken, da liegt man nicht eng. Schwarze Milch der Frühe, wir trinken dich nachts, wir trinken dich mittags, der Tod ist ein Meister aus Deutschland, wir trinken dich abends und morgens, wir trinken und trinken, der Tod ist ein Meister aus Deutschland, sein Auge ist blau, er trifft dich mit bleierner Kugel, er trifft dich genau. Ein Mann wohnt im Haus, dein goldenes Haar, Margarete, er hetzt seine Rüden auf uns, er schenkt uns ein Grab in der Luft, er spielt mit den Schlangen und träumet. Der Tod ist ein Meister aus Deutschland. Dein goldenes Haar, Margarete, dein aschenes Haar, Sulamite.
C'est le sang, émacier le sang, émacier des murs, le sang, émacier des murs qui coulent dans la terre, qui coulent dans la terre. Le sang émacié qui coule dans la terre, dans la terre, le sang, nous ne savons plus, nous ne savons plus.
Very dark, very avant-garde, very powerful. Especially love that painting there. I don't know if Bryson made that painting, but definitely fits the mood of the piece. By the way, I found the original as seen on Nuno Poetry, just so everyone can see it really quick. But there it is. So definitely, like I said, I definitely heavily respect poets from all walks of life to submit to Nuno Poetry, getting their creative expressions out there. So that was definitely a very visceral experience from Ivan D. Monbryson. Okay. Speaking of the arts, we also have Jerome Berglund. Jerome Berglund, his poem, and kind of like I remember this is a really interesting poem that had a picture along with it. He does his own visual art. So this is Jerome Berglund with his very short poem that he's going to read, and I'm going to show how it is on our magazine. So up next, Jerome Berglund.
A beam of light drained in, spotlights an empty chair circumspectly.
Very short haiku poem there from Jerome Berglund. Now, the haiku that he gave, excuse me, was he also included a picture. I'm actually scrolling through the website to find it. Yep, here it is. I have a soft spot for Japanese poetry, especially haiku. I write haiku myself, and I absolutely love Japanese culture and especially Japanese literature. But I was really struck by this wonderful photograph that he did along with his poem here. So this is exactly what I'm talking about when I say Nuno Poetry. We really respect what is new, and we embrace what new forward ways when it comes to poetry. We're open to all styles, all creative outlets, be it visual, written word, stuff like that. And I especially am a big lover of multimodality. Jerome Berglund, Ivan D. Monbryson's work definitely fits into that multimodal work, and I especially love that stuff. Okay, so up next we have Jesse C. Jesse C. This is a very, very interesting poem here. I remember the first time I encountered it, I was almost taken aback by it, and I was very almost intimidated by it. But to me, that's a good sign. That's a sign of a good poem, one that challenges you, one where I ask myself, I mean, is this really poetry? You know, I mean, who's to say what's poetry and what's not? This was definitely one of those poems where, when I finished it, I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I said, that's a sign I need to publish this. So let's give it up here for, excuse me, Jesse C.
Exploded diagram number 6, right/dominant hand. This slice of epidermis here, item A, covers the forefinger and thumb. Traces of gunpowder and the soft cradle in between. Trace of his girl, the smell of her. From fucking around in the movie theater, a glimmer of possibility and the faint phantom of her. Grit under his nails and fingerprints in the folds of his palm. Second layer here. We have a minor abrasion along the inside of the middle and proximal phalanx. This from twisting off bottle caps incessantly. Almost a permanent callus, if tissue could do so. These are the markings of a long crawl towards a short lifespan. Now, rotate the diagram 16 degrees on the x-axis, horizontally. Same layer, item C, this bruising along the meat of the palm, from open slamming the steering wheel repeatedly, with oblique and rigorous force while screaming, fuck, 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 parentheses. See exploded diagram number 12, side panel of mouth and tongue, end parentheses. Fuck, fuck. Trying to rip the whole steering wheel off its hub as if to decapitate the vital tools of navigation. Now, here, rotate 30 degrees up vertically. On the y-axis, see the whole of the palm? First layer, item D, eczema. Agitated by himself, a nervous tic that resurfaces when stuck in traffic, when confronted with unanswers, and currently in the relentless hamster wheel of when will his girl finally see the real monster he is. And, more importantly, will it be just enough to thrill the edge of lust and rancor for her to stick around, like maybe she can fix him? Next layer below, item G, here the bones are sound, articulated with a slight tilt to accommodate a broken wrist, parentheses. See exploded diagram number 11, left forearm, end parentheses. Accrued in high school, a soccer game, another utterance of fuck, 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 the re-breaking of said wrist, a white-hot brand of agony he has thankfully not experienced since. Lastly, rotate on the y-axis 60 degrees down. See that? Faint bent in the forefinger. This from a table saw. Only the flesh sundered, no bone was cut. But that's what you're seeing in the scar tissue. Layers 1 through 3, the fascia as well. Item B. This from the last days of him doing honest work. Soon after to say, fuck it then. And recede into the lunatic fringe, the underbelly, the hot viscera of his city to commiserate with the tapeworms and parasites, henchmen and sycophants that burrow within the body of any given civilization. You can see here he is spent like an empty shell casing from a decade plus of cataclysm. How the fingers wither inward like the hibiscus flower at dusk, despite the pins in the diagram so placed to keep the hand splayed out properly, academically, for study. Subject has since lifted up the rock and reports indicate the crawl out from under bodes well, that this hand and its companion have found solid purchase and grip on ground and no longer lack the strength. So, there are bursts of joy light, canted beams of sun laughter. The bent in his finger, a lodestone that draws his eye as he plucks snakes from his breast pocket and hurls them aside. When done with review, please return this diagram to cabinet number 1, second drawer, and file under left side of darkness. Thank you.
Very, very powerful reading by Jesse C. right there. Again, was very intimidated by that poem, just the graphic imagery. I'm sure you all kind of understood where I was, kind of like a crossroads. It was like, wow, this is just so powerful, so unique. I just felt like I had to put it out there, but it was just something so different. And you know what? One of the things I've learned about running New Note Poetry, taking risks. Got to take risks, and I mean, you got to suck at something before you get good at something. You know what I mean? So I'm definitely a risk taker. I believe go big or go home when it comes to how I run New Note, and that was definitely one of those instances there. Very beautiful, powerful poem, I think, and definitely something very unique. I'm always looking for stuff like that. All right, up next we have Jonathan Yuka. Jonathan Yuka with his poem. I remember this poem distinctly as well. All right, so let's give it up for Jonathan Yuka.
Hello. Hello, my name is Jonathan Yuka. The title of my poem is My Tower. I watched you through the silence of the storm and felt the disaster gnashing the threads of your hair. Then I knew that love created shapes and spheres, varied mountains and prettiness and misfortunes, through which it struggled to haggle for the sky. I could not watch it strike another chord in you. When I saw you in the mirror and gulped a cloud, gold hair, face like the clear negative of an artist. You are no longer the faceless shadow on my street, another catastrophe hiding at the dark corner, destined to make an orphan of the lonely stars. So you wore a veil even while you fell asleep, that I might not see your face and fall silent. Now that you're a trophy stuck under the galaxy, a cup for a pile of beer quickly tossed aside, a seeking of surfaces, Peter punching planets, yet you are my hiding place, my eternal tower. I have grown wings never to perch like a bird. Quick men learn to shoot without aiming, for fall is the flimsy temptation of beauty, when it's not the cabinet denominator of love. But my soul is at peace when I run into your dome and find it easy to face another tomorrow. Here is the end of my poem. Thank you.
No, thank you, Jonathan. Beautiful, beautiful reading of a fantastic poem, full of voice, full of imagery. That's the stuff I seriously love to see. So, thank you, thank you. All right, up next we have Jos Varghese. Jos Varghese. Coming at you next.
Hello, I'm Jos Varghese from India, and I'm going to read a very short poem titled The Art of Immersion, which is published in the summer 2022 issue of New Note Poetry. The Art of Immersion. Little girl steps into a river, hears a bamboo creak, feels on the soles of her feet the slight tremor of snakes slithering in the sun's secrets, and tastes sweet palm fronds in the breeze as her fingers move over the wrinkled surface of a captive elephant's past and spread peace to its scars from her memories of wars that had killed her own past. Thank you.
No, thank you, thank you. Great, great reading there. You know, it was, as he was reading that poem, I am just amazed at, again, the diversity of the poets who have submitted to New Note Poetry is just fantastic. Not even just 10 days ago, we celebrated our 1 year anniversary of New Note Poetry. I started this crazy idea of, hey, I want to run a literary magazine. Literally just woke up. I have no publishing experience. I was like, I'm going to do it because I love poetry, and I just wanted to create something unique in this larger lit mag conversation going on, So I started it, and here I am now sharing these wonderful poets from around the world. Really is just fantastic. In fact, I have a statistic right here. of the how many readers we have from all over this beautiful earth. We average 1,200 readers per issue, and our top readers are from USA, the UK, Canada, India, Australia, Nigeria, Japan, Singapore, Ireland, and the Philippines. So that is those are our top readers there. But to gives me a great sense of pride. It seriously does, and it gives me a great sense of just accomplishment, knowing that I'm helping these. I really am helping these poets get their word out there across the world, and the fact that so many poets from different walks of life, as I said, are submitting is fantastic. Just within the past year, we've received 1,000 submissions. So I'm still just blown away by it. So again, I can't say this enough, but I want to thank all the poets here today who have decided to read, and I also thank all the people who have submitted to New Note Poetry. This is seriously nothing without you guys, and again, I want to thank all of our fantastic readers from around the world. All right, up next we have Joseph Boyle. Joseph Boyle coming at you next. Let me get him ready. All right, Joseph Boyle.
Hi, my name is Joseph Boyle. I'm going to read a poem of mine. It was published in the autumn 2022 issue of New Note Poetry, and it's called My Religion. The firelands are snowed under heaps of night, desperate to detect outbound traffic, slow umber between you and I. And many's the time we swam the dark of a divided highway, seen the city, the lost and lonely weekend of the heart, and turned away. How few are fish in the river who stir still clarity into nubulous tongues the depth of jade, and eyes the agate of lake ice. I want them come to me, skin as jewels, we, shadow on shadow, in hot rush, in small hours of youth, must be together, friends in the dark. I wonder at their names. We are outside with paper. Did you see the words or hear the pencil scratching? Thank you.
Great reading of a great poem. Really just fantastic stuff. Once again, I'm just blown away from the fantastic selections from our 2 recent issues. If you have not read an issue of New Note Poetry, please do. Once again, it's free. Have at it if you love the stuff that you're hearing today. Please do. Okay, up next we have Letitia. We have Letitia Rocha. Letitia Rocha. Coming up to you. Let me get her all set up here. All right, once again, Letitia.
Hi everyone, my name is Leticia Prevey Rocha, and today I'll be reading my poem, Psych Ward Cartoon. It's a very short poem, one of those small but mighty poems, or at least I like to think that it's mighty. So here goes. Psych Ward Cartoon. Moldy ridges of cottage cheese skin that sticks to a hospital gown, stained by sweat, piss, shit, tears. Melted mouth hardened into an O from which drip, drip, dripping screams endlessly stalagmatize. Bed 5 feet away, because you also belong in this place, after all. Thank you.
Small and mighty is right. I think Letitia put it very eloquently there. Small and mighty. You know, that's the stuff I look for in poems as well. So, small and mighty. I like it. I like the way she said that. I also like the aesthetic of her room. Very nice, calming, more alternative vibes going on there. I really like the vibes there. But Letitia, beautiful, great stuff there. I also love the title, Psych Ward Cartoons. I think it was Billy Collins who said the title of the poem is like the welcome mat. You know, when you come across a poem called Psych Word Cartoons, it's like, man, you just got to read it. You know, like I just got to see what that's about. So, great stuff there. I'm a poet myself. I suck with titles. You know, so I should ask you guys, how do you title your poems? Because man, I struggle with it. All right, Mars Group up next. Mars Group. Let me get her ready here.
Drawing lesson. Form in space. Of things held in my hands, mass and volume and form. Of objects aggregate, bulk, embodiment that most engage the artist. Depicted on a flat plane, a Hertz in vitrified niello, ebonized and burnished. Set off against, in silver aurora, around the heft of a woman's worth, her bounty. Gradually rotated and investigated from several perspectives, with whose eyes the gestalt, the outline, the figure defined.
Great reading. Beautiful, beautiful reading right there of a very impactful poem. You know, as she was reading, I can almost imagine like this drawing that she's describing, or this act that she's describing, happening in front of me. That's the stuff I love, seriously. Up next, Mark Tenlow. Mark Tenlow. This is a. I remember this is a good one, and yeah, without further ado, I'll just go straight into Mark Tenlow coming at ya.
Hello, New Note Poetry readers. My name is Marcus Tenlow, and I'm the author of the poem, The Ugly Chess. I wrote this poem in enthusiasm for one of my favourite board games, and perhaps one of the greatest board games of all time, chess. Here's the poem, The Ugly Chess. The pair of gorgons recreate with a schmozzling scuttle on a plane, rearrangement in axolotlism, whipped into a greeting card. He who opens it gets the creatures grappling him by the neck, running down his shirt front and tickling down the waves of chest hairs. Along the old flabby arms, twisted with veins and puffy splayed hands, conception of the puzzle, like gametes captive in a towering factory, dives into a schism, and the sordid eyes gamut a rockingly good laugh. Hope you enjoyed the poem. See you next time.
I most certainly enjoyed that poem. Marcus has a good reading voice, I must say. Very, very good spirited reading of that poem. And I'm a chess player myself. I'm not like fantastic. I literally just started this year, but definitely I do agree it's probably one of the greatest board games of all time. And I especially love that poetic rendition of what chess is like. I said earlier in the stream, I believe anything can be a poem, and that right there is a great example. Even just something mundane and simple as chess, writing just a beautiful poem about that, and how it becomes a powerful and unique poem is just your perspective, the way how you see this mundane event. I mean, what could be mundane to one person is not to another. So absolutely fantastic stuff there from Marcus Tenlow. Up next, we have Maria. Maria Hires, I believe it's pronounced. Hires. Again, I apologize for butchering that. But up next, we have Maria. And this is a very, very powerful poem. I remember when I first encountered it, within the first stanza, I said to myself, this is a good one. Sometimes I get that gut feeling, you know, when you're halfway through a poem, you just know that it's good, you know, you just know that there's something powerful happening. You know, this was definitely one of those poems. So up next, we have Maria Hires. Get her up here for you.
Jonathan's resurrection. The burning house that angels had pulled him from tattooed his throat with scars. They sewed shut the open wounds with the gold thread of a gilded needle. Their thumbs rubbed a pearled ointment into his charred skin while they cried like his brain was a bomb. What they had thought of fire, that it was too dangerous to give man when he already had a world full of wood. They bathed him with a sponge soaked in their tears. The rainbow that arced over his bed hummed Sing Jonathan in a language that entered his heart instead of his ears. His noise was a miracle, made possible in the same way that birds have hollow bones so they can fly. In the corner, a ladder materialized. Having slipped the collar of his life, he stalks a street formerly off limits. In an oily puddle, beer bottle shards float like puzzle pieces for an argument that had gone wrong, in which two ghosts had picked up hammers and elected to break the sculpture they were many years into making. Their anger smelled like his house, which his mother had burned down. Across the block, a leaking fire hydrant ribbons water into the gutter. Through the purposeful flicks of his tongue, he drinks an ocean. Enough water to drown in, bloats his stomach, which swings as he trots through the open gates of a graveyard. Two ghosts have wrapped the blurs of their arms around its tombstone, as tall and firm as the cross atop a church. The two of them share a sadness, a pile of disintegrated brick, which they have yet to build their ladders with, as he had built his. In a wilderness unknown to humans, he sings into existence the berries that angels stop to pick.
Very powerful, unique poem there. Love the use of imagery. Definitely one of those poems that really stood out as I was editing that particular issue. I believe it was the summer one, yeah. The summer issue was one of the most ambitious issues we've done so far at New Note. Definitely very proud of it, so definitely give a read off at newnotepoetry.com. Okay, up next we have Matt Morris. Matt Morris is up next. And again, looks like we have a very nice library behind him. I'm seeing the Odyssey, I'm seeing the Iliad. I see someone selected poetry. I can't really make it out, but I definitely love looking at people's libraries. I'm a big book collector myself. You can't see it because, like, literally all this out here that you don't see, it's actually just like books upon books and stuff like that. All right, up next, like I said, Matt Morris.
Hi, I'm Matt Morris, and this is Martini and Rossi. A couple off-duty cops busted into the library, mistakenly taking me for Jesus. Crackers though it sounds, I'd volunteered to find a few tidbits about the town before the festivities at the community center, the one named after a longtime senator, now dead. The old Judas tree near the entrance turned out to be a historic landmark, which made it perfect for hanging the ceremonial red metal wind spinner. But I couldn't convince the cops, snorting and grunting debased, therefore baseless accusations as to who I was and why I was there. It didn't help that I was wearing a Skull Hill t-shirt, only because my SMU t-shirt was dirty after spilling a bit of symbolic blood the day before. It's a right. But they didn't care about anything like that. They kept calling me Jesus, and I kept saying, so you say, knowing better than to argue with loaded bullet heads. But whatever cheek I turned, up this tier or that, one of them would be there, riding my ass like it was Fat Tuesday. So I got the hell out the second the rain began to die down. And right behind they followed, step for step past an open manhole, just waiting for me to cross the street to nail me.
Great use of voice, great use of storytelling. Definitely a good use of humor too. Pretty, really is just a fascinating poem there. And I love the opening line. The opening lines is one of those things that I always say, like, it doesn't necessarily make or break your poem, but it definitely helps a lot. A good, strong, opening line that really hooks people in. Wants me to see more of it. That's one of those old tricks of the trade with writing that they tell you. Start strong and never let them go. That poem right there is a great example of it. Just the imagery of two cops going up to me, is asking, "Are you Jesus?" and stuff. Like, I need to read more after something like that. You can't just leave me hanging like that. So, great stuff there. Up next is Miko. Miko Himalaya. Let's get him ready up in here. Once again, Miko.
Thanks, Nathan, and thank you all. The first time I tried to do this, the fire alarm in the building went off, so I threw another line in for the occasion. This is number 38 in a series called Chalked. In the middle of the street, a man offers marriage to every woman he sees. Strangers lace arms. An alarm goes off in the middle of a poem. A body moans in the back seat of a Cadillac. A bowling ball drops from an overpass. An alternator belt snaps. High beams flash at the wrong car. Cash spits from an ATM. Give me some. Any unopened can of worms.
Thank you so much, Miko. Very funny opening there. Yeah, you never know what happens when you do readings. You don't know how people are going to react. You don't know if some freak thing's going to happen, like fire alarm goes off. So I definitely relate to that. So great stuff there. And also just a fantastic poem. I'm really interested to see the rest of that sequence if it's out. All right, up next is Nancy L. Meyer. Now, this is a very fascinating poem because the poet has a direct relationship with this poem, and she explains it in the beginning of her reading here. So let's enter into the life of Nancy L. Meyer here. Definitely a very unique story about how she wrote this poem. I'm very fascinated by it. So once again, Nancy L. Meyer.
Hi, I'm Nancy Meyer, and I'm going to read Steeple Monologues from a current manuscript that weaves reflections on my former marriage to an African-Jamaican man with the very recent discovery that my colonial New England ancestors were enslavers. In researching, I came across an incident written up in the local newspaper that Zebulon, one of the men we enslaved, climbed the local church steeple 90 feet to the top, where there was a copper rooster, weather vane spinning, and he crowed like the rooster. That image never left me and started this whole project. This poem, Steeple Monologues, I'm going to read 3 different ways. It is written in columns with monologue by Zebulon, a monologue by me, and then my attempt to bring these 2 together. Steeple Monologues. Zebulon, 1753. Cock-a-doodle-doo, a-doo, cock-a-doodle-doo, a-doo, cock cock-a-doo, cock-a-doodle-doo. Cock-a-doodle-doo, cock-a-doo, cock-a-doodle-doo, cock-a-doodle-doo. Nancy, 2021. Crow struck, I, white woman, can't muzzle your rooster sound. No fool, your code, your call. I want to climb up, talk to you. You won't let me speak. The sound you choose chokes me out. Your voice disallows my squawks. I hear you, I do. Cock-a-crow struck, I do. White woman, dull, can't muzzle, do your rooster sound. A do, cock-a-doodle, no fool, do your code, your call. I want to climb up, do talk with you. Do, cock-a-doodle, you won't let me, do let me speak. Cock-a-doodle, the sound you do choose. Cock chokes me, cock out, a do. Cock-a, your voice, doodle disallows, do my squawks. Cock-a-doodle-doo. I hear you, I do. Thank you.
Great reading and great storytelling there. What inspired Nancy to write that poem? Definitely a very interesting experience to have and to write about. And I'm glad that she is writing a manuscript about that experience. Definitely very very interesting story. I can't, if that manuscript ever comes out, I'd love to read it. And I remember when I came across that poem, I just felt so much power from the simplicity of it, this repetition of cock-a-doodle-doo, cock-a-doodle-doo, and of course her voice mixed in with it. Almost like a call and response kind of a thing there. So really, just really great stuff. All right, so we have a couple, believe it or not, we have a couple of poets left. This is fantastic. Up next, we have Paul Hostovsky. Paul Hostovsky coming up at you next.
Hi, Paul Hostovsky here, reading my poem, Commandment. You gotta love all your little hatreds, all your petty annoyances, annoy from the Latin odium, for they have been around since before Latin, since before Old Italic, Etruscan, Phoenician, Hebrew, and every other tongue. Your little hatreds have been spitting on the earth since the second fish who walked on land trod on the heels of the first, and probably got into it with the third fish too. There is such a rich tradition of resentment, grudge, and kerfuffle is such a great word. You gotta love it. You gotta love your neighbors as yourself. But if your neighbor is irritating, try loving all your irritations. Try getting in touch with the oneness of their long branching history, whose latest leafy, unclenching, florid blossom you are. It's a numinous workaround, and you gotta love it.
Amen. You gotta love it. Amen. Great reading of a great poem there. Great stuff. Up next, we have Rebecca Faulkner. Now, I remember this poem very clearly. You'll be very, very impressed by this poem as I was when I first came across it. Once again, up next we have Rebecca Faulkner. I also love her shirt. She's got a really cool shirt there. I don't know if she's in the chat right now or anything, or if she's watching, but I'd love to see where you can get this shirt. Okay, Rebecca Faulkner.
My name's Rebecca Faulkner, and this is my poem, Cemetery Crush. 2 sticks of spearmint gum, loose change in my denim cut-offs. I destroy September with my pedals. Calves pump the hill's lip. Breeze blurs green, then black. Breaking hard at the cemetery where we always meet. You're as vague as the avenue I crossed. Tuck my face in, tombstone sharp. We never lock our bikes. You never say my name. But the dead are in my hair when your palms crush the petals. And babies who were loved briefly cry out 6 feet below us, rocked as the security light stutters, your mouth restless, fumbling gravel. I give up my skin, leaving sneaker treads and silver wrappers with the dead who do not judge me.
Powerful poem there. I think there's a lot of ways you can interpret that poem, and that's the stuff that I love. I'm one of those people where I don't believe there's one fixed meaning to a poem. A poem can, once the poet puts it out there into the world, people can dissect it and interpret it however they want. And it's really fun to get people together and try to dissect a poem like Rebecca Faulkner's there. But all in all, it is I think it was a very moving and very effective use of visuals, especially. So great stuff. Up next, Regina Garcia. We have another series of haiku here. I remember this is a very unique set of haiku from Regina Garcia. As I said before, I am a sucker for Japanese poetry. In fact, Japanese poetry was one of my inspirations for starting New Note, along with not just jazz music, but also Lawrence Ferlinghetti and his City Lights publishing. That was definitely another influence there. But Japanese poetry is also I have a huge soft spot for, as I said. The t-shirt is from CV2 magazine. Great to know. Really, that's a really nice shirt. I agree with it. I mean, there is no bad poems, you know, as long as you're expressing yourself and you feel you're confident in expressing your ideas. I mean, who's to say what's good poetry? Who's to say that's bad poetry? You know. So I really like that shirt. Okay, so moving on, Regina Garcia. This is a very powerful poem here. So let's give full attention to Regina here.
Greetings. I am Regina Garcia from Greenville, North Carolina, and I'm so excited to share with you today my poem, Afrofuture's Haiku in Multiverse. Brown Girl Surfs the Continuum. Scanning the timeline. Brown girl roaming, mind in flight. Be vigilant now. Lives depend on hope. Consult every star you find. Croon's mother of days. She crossed deep oceans, found emerging life forms, clay-shaped with divine breath. They struggled with sin, centers distended, bore more. She learned, grew smart, strong. Below this starshine, sparkling clean waters quench earth. Love and fear bloom sure.
Powerful. That's all I can say. Powerful. Nice choice of music too. Bit of a cliche to say, but Beethoven's one of my favorite composers, next to Claude Debussy. So great use of Moonlight Sonata there. But overall, fantastic poem there. And yes, Rebecca, there's no bad poems here. Absolutely not. This is just these last 2 issues of New Note Poetry have especially been very, very strong. And I am just, again, blown away by the level of quality of these poems, and I'm really glad to be sharing out these poems to the world here. All right, Sarah Eddy. Up next, Sarah Eddy. Could you believe we only have 4 readers left, guys? Man, I feel like I can do this for another hour or two. Sarah Eddy is up next.
Close. I want to watch a film about a little girl like me and her unlikely friendship with some large animal, a grizzly bear, let's say. It's like a craving. I can see the edges of the plot. They save each other. She puts her fingers in his fur. She surrenders gratefully when he puts his muzzle to her throat.
Short yet powerful poem there. Definitely very heavy. I love the just to the point language there. I was very taken back by that poem when I first read it. Just not in just its simplicity, but also its the image there. I'm also a big fan of surrealism, just like surrealist moments and pictures like that. Surrealism has always been a big love of mine and a big inspiration for me. I especially love Dali, Salvador Dali, probably my favorite artist of all time. Up next, Sebastian Pons. This is a fun one. This is a fun little poem here. Definitely makes me a little nostalgic, being a 90s baby. So, Sebastian Pons, coming at you.
Hi there. My name is Sebastian Ponce, and I'm going to read a poem about my childhood. It's called One Day in the 90s. 2 rocks make a goal on one side of the street. Find a couple more to make it a game of football. Too few bicycles for too many children. 3 is the sweet spot. The first one is riding on the back wheel pegs, the second pedals, and the third one on the handlebars is afraid of falling. An empty Coca-Cola to spin. The glass bottle grinds against the pavement and kaleidoscopes our faces. Find a spot in front of the one you like. Stick around for at least 4 rounds to improve your chances. Buy a single cigarette from the corner store. The lady behind the counter will even light it for you. Nothing cooler than sucking and holding that smoke 5 hits in a row. And don't forget the piece of gum to disguise the smell. 6 is the last hour of the afternoon, always. Enjoy supper as soon as the grown-ups come home. What did you learn in school today? Nothing is the best answer. Before bedtime, watch rerun telenovelas with the family. Go to sleep and dream that it never ends. Thank you.
Very powerful poem about nostalgia there. One day in the 90s. Yep. Some days I wish I can go back to the 90s, you know. Very great use of voice there. I really get a sense of the character and the voice from that poem. So Sebastian, thank you. Very wonderful, charming little poem there. All right, we got another video poem here, some video poetry. This is by Taiko Sei. This is a first time I watched this, I was really impressed by it. So this is Taiko Sei, and I'm just going to let the video speak for itself. It's a very visceral, very powerful video poem here. So once again, this is Taiko Sei.
We made poetry, not love, and loved anywhere we could be at that moment, on the drunk tram hop home. You under pickled scarf, me in black hat, conspiring with slouched spine, the air in our lungs while on red chair of tram. We made poetry, not love. We watched pigeon drink from puddle where cobble was. It was love, always love. We couldn't raise our elbows past our mouths, and we wore lipstick and got chased all love-struck in the Domu night. Heard me cry, or at least would have let you, would have told you, hands on shoulders, that it was alright, Shek no dobry. And when you came home from Red Caravan after the long overhaul, your eyes were wide and you told us you peeled and boiled rabbit mane alone, cold and home all alone, and you were so keen on picked bazooka. And it was all poetry, and I loved you, and it was all right. Such a nice story when I hear you tell it. And when we met for the first time, we shook hands, and your hair was wild long, and I went home not knowing what trouble the world would be in, nor what demands these memories would have. We made poetry, not love, hun. Never leave a good party for another one, hun. Learned that one the hard way, hun, didn't we, in Vecherikin, on the long walk until the world made us lonely again, hun. There's too much love in this world, but we looked oh so good loving it, and what grand parties there were when we were young in the kitchen. Can't tell you how much it meant to me to depend on you and for you to be there again and again, what it means, a single sentence. It's all right, Hunt. And now I live where you lived, and you live where you live, and you left mad scribbles in the notebooks in my cupboards, and I read them and feel shy and handle your handwriting and palm of hand like real poetry, like traces of bore and wild green field, your handwriting, somehow new and new. We explored the world like real boys, got naked and let it make love to us, hun. It was all poetry. It was all right.
Beautiful. Really, just that's all I can say about that. Very beautiful piece of filmmaking there. And yeah, just I love the visuals there with that video poem. My original background was actually in filmmaking. I got into poetry like way later in my life, so I especially love seeing these video poets mold two arts together, filmmaking and poetry. Some say that movies are kind of like poetry already, and some say poems are already like movies, but something like Taiko says, we made love, not we made poetry, not love, right there is a very good example of that. All right, we have two left, guys. This is just incredible to think. Man, time has really just gone by on us. Even though it says I've been streaming for 2 hours, didn't feel like that at all. I feel like I can go on for another hour here. These are just some fantastic poems. Seriously, guys, I am just floored by these. Up next, we have Stephanie Shushko. Stephanie Shushko.
My words are attempts at fingers. This is what I mean. Sometimes I walk around with only palms. This surface brushing that. You know how it goes. A sight bristles like wool or purrs like silk against the upturned sense. This or that place or person leaves a rash or presses color, light into the lines. Palms get to take impressions, like something making molds for keys. But they are not good at keeping, always hanging open like children's bags, like children's hearts. They clench along the curves, but give everything away, to air, to time, to a stranger's floor that will only catch the half of what was dropped. The palm has a fateful youth, an infuriating smoothness, the stubborn push of blood against the skin, the sickened swell of muscle against fat erases all encroachment of meaning. All glorious disfigurement is reversed by the upspringing of fresh river earth in every season. Look, an old man's is the same as a newborn child's, and even then we make the perfection worse in all the ways we can, from the cloaking in gloves to the hygiene of habit, scrubbing off the dark of traded oils, dutifully nullifying any deal which could be reached between this soft thing and the world. Eye for eye, skin for skin, palm for palm, it comes to nothing. This breeding of the chaos with the flattest of customs, this kneeling without knees. These words are my attempts at fingers, my plea for buds on the unscrolled branches, my entreating the mind to reflect the body, to grow upon itself something like the smart sag of knuckle, the folds between the bones that mark resolution, the dirt beneath the ragged rind, a steel-tongued snake uncoiling from the unsatisfiable surface of feeling. On these barren planets, which hover over the world like so much speculation, I propose to plant a flag, to sow a cancer, to pierce the pointless things like they do boils, to send something guilty out from the self-satisfied center, to propagate a vine capable of reaching far enough to grasp, just softly, the edge of the light, the edge of the cloak, to open enough to steal what is worth stealing, to bring fleeting things away to some time when they are safe to see, to uncurl one day the smudged flesh fringes like bled-out petals found in a long sealed pocket, to free the patient sweating seeds only when the earth is ready, to say, with something to show for it, this is what I mean.
I'm a sucker for a good metaphor, and man, when I first came across that poem by Stephanie about poetry being like fingers, I was just kind of looking at my own hands as like, I really want to see what she means. You know, beautiful. I think a very beautiful poem. One that I think a lot of poets can relate to. I had to put it in Nuno Poetry. It just fit too well with the magazine. So wonderful poem there by Stephanie Shushko. All right, last but not least, closing us out, we have Winslow MacDonald. Winslow MacDonald is going to be closing us out with his poem. Okay. Wow, beautiful cityscape background he's got there. I don't know what city that is. I haven't been to a lot of them, but when we have a Winslow here that's going to close us out.
I'm Winslow MacDonald, and this is Linear Express. The sign on the train station's door turned a year old this weekend, temporarily closed. The railroad girl sits above the cut, her legs swinging, and all about the quiet concrete. The railroad takes you down the coast of heavy peninsulas, sinking in their overgrown, each building stepping closer to their farther continents. The railroad takes you, and it carries her. In the watched city, people walk on strings and await their sorry reinforcements. The old man lets a rat climb over his bed, and on the islands, those called unrepentant bury wooden caskets. From the rattling miles away, the watched city is innocent. A pigeon flies from its open wounds, the city's blood blameless, repulsed by the unnamed infection. Unsmelled, a pigeon flies from a gash in the punctured ceiling and crawls across the unmapped sky. The railroad girl forgets her hands and her thumbs and how they bend. In the man-sodden car, we wait and wish for white-speckled or piebald breasts, for little crowned beaks with which we might rip at the porthole somewhere in the city's abdomen. Our bejeweled and ravenous new mouths tear open a clean circle. Let vent the choleric shroud. Let bleed the mealy current. Before time, or indeed the bloated earth, could retch the railroad girl from her iron-spiked spine, she did so herself. and clutched the last unfloating particle before the watched city ate the train in secret. And she wondered...
I completely apologize, everyone. I was fiddling around with this, and I was missing most of the poem. I do sincerely apologize for that. Let me restart it so we can keep our attention to Winslow here. I do apologize. Let me get back to that.
I'm Winslow MacDonald, and this is Linear Express. The sign on the train station's door turned a year old this weekend, temporarily closed. The railroad girl sits above the cut, her legs swinging, and all about the quiet concrete. The railroad takes you down the coast of heavy peninsulas, sinking in their overgrown, each building stepping closer to their farther continents. The railroad takes you, and it carries her. In the watched city, people walk on strings and await their sorry reinforcements. The old man lets a rat climb over his bed, and on the islands, those called unrepentant bury wooden caskets. From the rattling miles away, the watched city is innocent. A pigeon flies from its open wounds, the city's blood blameless, repulsed by the unnamed infection. Unsmelled, a pigeon flies from a gash in the punctured ceiling and crawls across the unmapped sky. The railroad girl forgets her hands and her thumbs and how they bend. In the mansarded car, we wait and wish for white speckled or piebald breasts, for little crowned beaks with which we might rip at the porthole somewhere in the city's abdomen. Our bejeweled and ravenous new mouths tear open a clean circle. Let vent the choleric shroud. Let bleed the mealy current. Before time, or indeed the bloated earth, could retch the railroad girl from her iron-spiked spine, she did so herself, and clutched the last unfloating particle before the watched city ate the train in secret. And she wondered if she was just a girl now, naked of the iron and the electric, the steel-shrouded burglar, the artifactual woman, the third, a man, barren and questioning.
All right. I apologize for those technical difficulties. All right. I apologize for those technical difficulties right there, but what a fantastic poem to end our live stream, guys. Seriously. Very powerful poem there. So thank you all so much for being here today. Once again, I cannot say this enough, and I feel like I say this a million times, but Nuno Poetry is seriously nothing without the fantastic poets who contribute and also our fantastic readers. You guys seriously do embody and support the idea of poetry being like jazz. Poetry is being the jazz of the written word. So therefore I say, for those of you who have not read Nuno Poetry, please do. Just go to nunopoetry.com. And again, it's a free magazine. You can read as much as you want. I do not believe in charging fees to have access to great poetry like the stuff coming out of Nuno. Seriously, just fantastic stuff. If you are a poet and you are interested in submitting to Nuno Poetry Magazine, submissions are open right now up until the end of this month for our winter 2022 issue. So get those submissions in. You can find out more about how to submit on newnotepoetry.com. In fact, I'm going to write it in for you guys right here. If you loved what you were hearing today, please consider submitting. Please, I would love to read it, and who knows, maybe you might be on our next live stream here. I'm going to end off with a little bit of a treat. I originally wasn't going to do this, but I was so inspired by everyone's powerful readings of their poems. I decided I will read one of my poems to really close us out. So, again, thank you all so much for being here. Big, huge shout-outs to all the poets who just read today, and also all of our poets in our summer and autumn 2022 issues. Very ambitious issues that I'm very proud of. All right, so as we close out, I'm going to read one of my poems here. Let me get music from Brendan Sika going here. Shout out to Brendan and his fantastic music. He is the other half of New Note Poetry. He really is. As we close out, I am going to read my poem here. This is a poem that was recently published in Open, the Journal of Arts and Letters. This is called Lunch with Frank O'Hara at the Mexican Cantina, Selected and Abridged. Frank O'Hara was one of my biggest inspirations. Probably my favorite poet of all time. He's definitely up there. That whole 50s and 60s scene of poetry was a big influence on New Note Poetry. So here's my poem, Lunch with Frank O'Hara at the Mexican Cantina. You can find it. I'll show you really quick. You can find it on Open, the Journal of Arts and Letters. This was recently published back in September here. So I am going to give a quick reading, and then I will sign everyone off. All right. A quick poem while he's eating. I passed Frank the napkin, and he only wrote a few words. Man, what a life. Whitman wrote the same thing last week. Frank didn't laugh. We shared the chips and salsa. It wasn't hot enough. We drank it like our third cup of coffee this morning. The senorita in the white blouse gave him the eye. Frank laughed. I turned his pages. Lana Turner? He's about to speak to me again. I grabbed the napkin. Kerouac? Don't bother. You need a beat for jazz, but not a beat for poetry. I see you, Frank. I hear your laugh. I think about you whenever I take a dump at church, as you told me. I take you with, but they told me you're no good. What do they know? Those old ladies are gonna pass out on a Sunday anyway. This burrito's gonna go right through me. Lana brought the check. She eyes my Frank again. They share a smile after a glance, talking about which place in New York City is the best to catch a concert and a smoke. I've been under the city lights with Frank, and I can't come close to the way his flamenco-tinged language gave the night to a lady named Day. I love to just grab a cigarette, light it, and burn it off on a white page as he does, but I need my lungs to vent, to love, to dance to bebop. If I read the O'Hara Monogatari, would I even recognize it? Would others recognize me? I looked at the napkin. You're right, Frank. See you at 12. You forgot your leftovers. All right. So once again, thank you all so much for being here in our second live stream reading for New Note Poetry. Once again, if you love what we do, please visit newnotepoetry.com. If you are a poet, please submit to us if you like the stuff that you were hearing today, and I'm going to sign us off here. So this is Nathan Nicolau here. Once again, thank you all so much for being here today. I cannot thank you all enough. I seriously can. So I'm going to stop right there, not be a broken record. So thank you, and I hope to see you all next time at our next live stream event. Thank you.